So we're going to talk about the moods and modes of the high holidays, because the certain modes in the high holidays set the different moods that we have. So let's talk about what are some of the moods that we have as we think of the high holidays. When you think of Rosh Hashanah, what does it conjure? What does it bring to mind? This is going to be participation here. Appreciation. In what form? What are you appreciation of? Being written in the book. Okay. And we call it the high holy days, not just the holy days or the holidays, but it's the high holy days. And so what's the relationship that we have perhaps with God when we think of coronation? That's right. Queens and kings and sovereigns, definitely. So it's about definitely we think of God as sovereign. Okay, and yeah, we've had a lot of kind of thinking about that in the news recently, and it's still continuing on. This is a long celebration and journey of the Queen's life. So definitely Majesty is one of the themes. Okay, what's another theme we have? We call it in Hebrew, we say Yamim Noraim. What does that mean when we say Yamim Noraim? The days of awe. And Norah can mean a number of different things. It can mean awe. What's another? You know what else it can mean? The word yara. It can be fear or dread because you don't know what's going to happen. Who will live and who will die, right? And it's just so it's the days of awe. The days it's something surreal. It's something beyond what we normally think of. So the days of awe, the days of wonder can also be like niflaot, okay? So Majesty, awe, mystery, and what else? Perhaps as we're coming towards the end of the holidays, and we finish with Rosh Hashanah, we have these 10 days in between as we get to Yom Kippur. What are some of the what's a theme of Yom Kippur that we have? Teshuvah. We ask Teshuvah is to return, right? And then we're about to have a holiday starting tomorrow night. What is that holiday called? Slichot. And so slichot means forgiveness. You say slicha, you bump into somebody, or oh slicha. But it also, if you wrong somebody, you ask for slichot. So that's another major theme of the holidays is slicha. Slichot, forgiveness or reflection. Okay, so we will find the music really brings out these themes as well. So let's start a little bit with the theme of Majesty. So we have that in the news, coronation, right? We're going to look at the gold book, Mishkan HaNefesh, for this for some of these, especially this theme, which is only appropriate as we're really thinking of God as ruler, sovereign, king, queen, during the first part of the holiday, especially throughout, but especially on the first part. So if you'll turn with me to page 20. And those of you that I think my parents might be joining in somewhere, so I don't know if you might have your own machzor, and you can join in on page 20. It's Baruch Hu. Okay. If you look at page 20, Baruch Hu. So this is how we do it on Rosh Hashanah, right? We go, ya la 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 la, right? Ya la 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 la, Baruch Hu et Adonai. Is that how we do it on Rosh Hashanah? No, that's not. That's how we do it on Shabbat. We just had that on Shabbat. So it is kind of nice and festive, but it really is not Rosh Hashanah. We need something a little more. If we're going to come before a king or a queen, it needs to be a little more pomp and circumstance. And we have a tune that really brings out that kind of theme. It's in the major, and this you may recognize more as the theme for Rosh Hashanah and also for Yom Kippur. That sound familiar? And Adonai Amevora. You could see maybe the processional of the king, the guards, right? Who's are holding their whatever they hold, right? And Adonai. You all know it. Beautiful. Okay, tell me a little bit about that melody. What key is it in, if you will? What's that?
Major.
Major. Yes. I could have, so it's in the major, okay? Certainly fits the idea of majesty when it's in the major, okay? And it has a lot, it's what we call a metrical tune. Bum, 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 bum. It's a very old tune that is done all over the world, okay? So actually, now that you did such a good job having Deborah between, since you did such a good job, identify the themes as you have. There's a little outline to kind of explain what we're talking about. So I'll let you follow along on the outline as well. So we identified the theme of majesty. And we just talked about Barbu on page 20. And then if we go to Micha Mocha is on page 34. So turn to page 34. And this is really a lot of this melody, this music is used on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, and also on the eve of Yom Kippur. Okay? As we approach, we're coming to God as the sovereign, the ruler, before we get into the next day, and sometimes the melodies change a little. So here, the Micha Mocha, in the middle of the page, it has the same, thank you. It has the same melody that we're going to incorporate. We call this nusach. Can you say that word? Nusach. Nusach is a formulation. So that's why, for the High Holy Days, we sing this. It would feel out of place if we sang, if we just sang, that feels right for Shabbat. But it doesn't feel right for the High Holy Days. If we started going into that, feel like you were gypped or something. It wouldn't feel right. It wouldn't feel like it's the right melody. So this is a melody. We use the same major melody. If you know, you can say in the major. Sometimes it has that raised seventh, for those who know. In the major, that's very jazzy. So that's what makes it a little more Jewish, as opposed to just major. We call it the Hashem Malach. Okay, Baruch Adonai Israel. So we can definitely feel, in our Western ears, we feel like major is happy, and we're sometimes sad. It wasn't always the case. We'll see that throughout as we go. But it definitely kind of fits here. It's something in major. It's very happy. It's upbeat. Okay. If you look at the next example, we get to the Chatzi Kaddish. And again, I'll just do a little bit of this just to show you. But again, it's the same motif, the same nusach, the same formulation. Yitkada, page 40. Yitkada, Shemei Rabbah, V'yamadim Rachirutei, V'yamlich Machutei. Amen. Listen carefully, something's going to change a little bit. That's your minor, that's the seventh. Listen carefully. You know the next part. Amen. What was different? What I pointed out. I didn't say you're in the minor, but wait, listen. Le'ela, I was thinking more of the text. Le'ela, le'ela, miko birchata v'shirata. Usually, if we're singing on Friday night, okay, we go Yitkara, Yitbara, Yishtabah, Yibarkama, Minase, Vitada, Vitada, Vitala, Shemay Gidishab, Riku, Le'ela, miko birchata, one le'ela. But here, Le'ela, le'ela. Pay attention throughout all our holidays, unless I get it wrong. But we're supposed to. Anytime we say this in the Mourner's Kaddish, in the Chatzi Kaddish, in the Kaddish Shalem, the Kaddish Ramadan, anytime we have a Kaddish, we add an extra le'ela. Le'ela, le'ela, higher and higher. We think of God and the blessings, as it says. Blessed is the one who is entirely beyond all the blessings of Him. So it's just, instead of just beyond, it's like beyond. My mother's beyond. Yes.
We just have to understand that for us, this was the first box where we had that. All of our previous
okay.
did not.
Right.
So for us, those of us who grew up in the Reform movement, who were nursed on the old movement.
Right. Okay. So, the rabbi was explaining that this is, for those who are listening in and can't necessarily hear, that this is the first time in the Reform Matzah where we've had this le'ela. So we've been nursed on the other Machzorim, we had the gates, the Union Prayer Book, the gates of repentance, these different prayer books, they only had one le'ela. But listen as you go, and it's quite a nice thing. It's a chiddush, if we would say, a chiddush, a new thing, a chiddush that it has both of them. Le'ela. Okay, and you'll hear it. It won't always sound like that. Sometimes it will be. You might be doing the Kaddish in a different way, and you'll hear the le'ela. It'll be in a different way, but both words will be. Okay, very nice. We continue on. We get to the Great Aleinu, page 202. Ooh, wouldn't it be nice if services went this quickly all the time? All right, 202. Yeah. Made her that she remembered, right? She resonated and remembered. Yeah. So this is the Great Aleinu. So new, it looks like it's the Aleinu. It's the same text as we have. Where do we usually say Aleinu? What's that? At the end of the service, right? So we might think, oh, we got to Aleinu, we're done. But no. So not in this case. So we're not done, but it takes on a different form with the Great Aleinu. So usually if we do, there's a Zoltz or two, now Aleinu we get to the service, we're almost done. It sounds like this, we know. We perk up, hey, we're getting close to the end. But here, this is a very different Aleinu. This is the Great Aleinu. And actually, this came first. So the Great Aleinu came first, and then they thought, this is a really important text. It's our duty to praise the All-Sovereign, to honor the artist of creation. So we should say this at every service. We put it then at the end of every service, but it really started, it came first here in the High Holies. So here's how we say it. I'm not going to prostrate, but this is another place. Instead of just bowing, right? We sing V'anachnu, usually, Korim, we bow. Umistachavim, we bow. A little more. Umodim, we bow. So there's three bows. Korim, Umistachavim, Umodim. When we do it in the Great Aleinu, in the service, we actually prostrate. So we bend our knees, but then we keep going, and then we prostrate all the way down, kind of like our Muslim friends who do it 5 times a day. They do it, they're a little more used to it, I'd say. Flexible, maybe flexible. That's right. So here's the beginning. Just listen to the first 3 notes. Tell me what you think, or tell me what you hear. Aleinu l'shavei ladon hakol. What are these 3 notes? For those of you who know music, what is that? Yes.
With descending in the scale.
It's part of a scale. What's that? 5-3-1. Somebody knows, but we actually call it, there's actually a technical musical term for this. What is it called?
Third.
It's called a triad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a major triad. It's a major triad. 5-3-1. 1-2-3-4-5. So it uses the 5-3-1. So it's very, you identify that is major, okay? That uses the major scale. But sometime in the middle, for parts of it, it could use a little bit of maybe that lowered seventh, but generally this is really a tune that's in the major. And even as we go, it's a little different. So on the second day, I do this all in the major. We have a different setting that we do on the first day with the choir. Come and hear the choir, okay? But it is, it's in the major. This is sovereignty at its finest. Okay, here it is. So, and it comes in our machshor here just before the shofar call. So shofar, the lady comes before the first set of shofar calls. So let's look ahead for a moment to page 206, where we have the shofar call. All right. So this is going to be a little extra credit. See if you can identify this melody. And you use it in another place somewhere during the liturgical season in another holiday. So here is the shofar call, and again you'll hear it. Baruch 5-3-1. Bum bum bum. There's your major. Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Blessed are you, the eternal our God, who sanctified us and commanded us to hear the sound of the shofar. And then, since it's the first time we're hearing it, Shehechianu as well. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'gianu lazman hazeh. You can't help to say amen. It's just, it comes out. You're used to it, right? It begs for an amen, all right? And then we do the calls for the shofar. So again, in the major, bum, 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 just like hallelujah, except it's faster. There, it's really spread, right? Kind of elongated. Here, Baruch atah Adonai. Okay, extra credit. Where else do we use that tune? Some of you might think. What's that? Now when we come to the Torah, I'm looking straight at Norm here. Yes, you. Purim, that's right. On Purim. Norm has been our narrator for 20-something years, probably even more, but since the 20-something years that I've been here. You have always been the narrators, and you're always in it. Others are in it as well. But if you listen to the blessings that we do, likro, to listen to the sound of the Megillah, okay? Likro, to hear, to read the Megillah, okay? So it's the same. Baruch atah Adonai. There's 3 of the lessons there. They use the same. So that makes you think, what's the similarity between Purim and Rosh Hashanah? Because we use it in both places. That'll be for another time. But you can think about it and get back to me and tell me what you think. Why would we use this tune to announce? We're really announcing, to announce Purim, and we're also announcing the shofar. And if we think of the Malchuyot, God is king or sovereign. What is the one word we have in the Megillah over and over and over? There's another word that we don't have at all. How do we refer? God's name is not there at all, but we are also always talking about the king. The king. I can't do it all. I'm sorry. But King Achashverosh or Hamelech, we talk about Hamelech, and here it is, Malchuyot. So that's definitely one of the relationships between the two. Okay, so so those are some examples of the majesty of the high holy days, this major mode, setting the tune of majesty. So now, if you will, let's move to the silver books, to Yom Kippur. Okay, on Yom Kippur, we talked about Yomim Noraim, the days of awe, the days of mystery. Again, we have all kinds of tunes that will bring out that. If the major brought out the Majesty, what kind of thing, what might bring out the fear, the awe, the dread? What do you think? Maybe the minor. Let's see. Let's take a look. So if we start with Kol Nidre, page 18. Four tastes, but that's probably not a word to you, Kol Nidre, because we're fasting. But on page 18, this is a very, very old tune. And the rabbis tried to get rid of it. They couldn't stand, I mean, it's a great tune, but after we do a little bit of the Kol Nidre, I would say in Hebrew, it's not Hebrew, it's actually in Aramaic. Okay, because these words, you see many of them end in Aleph. Indarna, right? Ude ish tabanna, ude acharina. It does sound very mysterious, just like when we say the words of the Kaddish. Okay, so it's not Hebrew, it's actually Aramaic, which is a language that everybody could understand at the time. It would be like if we did it today in English, so that everybody understood it. And we'll look at that in a second and say, why would we want to do it in English? But we'll look at it in a second. So, Kol Nidre Vesare Vacharame Vekoname Vechinuye There is something magical about that melody. It's haunting, it's ethereal, you know, it's in the minor. It doesn't, but it's, you know, it doesn't sound like stand out minor, like we'll see in a moment. But it, there are these motifs. It's like in our DNA a little bit. We should chant it in the vernacular. This is the vernacular of the tongue. Resolve and commitment. Vows of abstinence and terms of obligation, sworn promises and also dedication. Is this like lofty language? Like, is it? It's illegal. This is illegal. This is a legal, what's the word I'm looking for, Rabbi? It's a legal document to kind of, in a sense, get us off the hook, because we might have made vows, because it was an important thing that you made a vow against God, or you made a vow against, especially against God, and you didn't fulfill it, you're in deep trouble. Okay? But here, so this was kind of a way, and actually, if you notice, it's on page 18, before the bar food. So it's in a sense, before Yom Kippur starts. You would do it just at dusk, because it was about to be the beginning of the holiday. And you would say this 3 times, hocus pocus, abracadabra, boom, you're absolved of your sins. What's that?
It seems more plaintive than spiritual. It's like,
Yeah, it definitely is plaintive. The melody is plaintive, but the message, I mean, what is it that we can like come before on Yom Kippur, say this legal jargon 3 times and be off the hook? Because if you keep looking, right, so sworn promises that we promise and swear to God and take it upon ourselves from this day of atonement to next, may it find us well, we regret them. Our vows shall not be vows, our vows shall not be resolves, our oaths, they should not be oaths. So it's kind of like, whatever we did, we were absolved of our sin. So the rabbi, what's that? Kind of, yeah, kind of a feeling like going to convention. And it's like, no, you really need to do the hard work and go and ask for forgiveness and really think about before you make a vow, is that really what you want to do, especially to God? So there was really a movement, and there was a point where this was taken out of the service. And the people rebelled. They rebelled. They wanted their holy drink. They wanted the melody. The melody was so powerful for hundreds and hundreds of years. We needed that. So it came back. It came back. But it isn't, you know, I mean, and I think the fact that it's an Aramaic and it does have like a mysterious tone. If we really did this in English, it might go the way of the, it might go the way because we've been thinking about what are we saying? It's like, why are we saying this? The words, you know, the melody is great, but the words, it doesn't really make sense. We're going to get to Unatan and Token. There, those words, they're kind of, they're words with a lot of weight to them. Somebody was going to say, yes, please.
I was just going to say a little bit about this, but not exactly the words. I took care of a lady from the time she was 90 until she was 99.
Okay.
And one thing she always wanted to do was to go on the eve,
The eve of Yom Kippur.
and I was next to her with an old hand. I mean, she did not get dementia, but she didn't remember a whole heck of a lot. But I sit next to her, and she would sing this whole thing with Rabbi Emmer.
She would sing it.
So
It was right. It was so powerful that even though it was something that she wanted, right? You want something she wanted to hear, no matter what. Of anything, that was. What's it saying now? I said, leave it. This is somebody you were caring for, who wanted to come here. Wow.
And this is something we would always do until the year she died. And I was next to her, I would be amazed that she would sing all the words.
Right. There's a power beyond the words, no question, because the words are really, it's a legal jargon. They're not, the words are not powerful. The fact that they're in Aramaic and it kind of sounds like a mysterious language to us, that is powerful. But if you then stop to think about what the words are, it's not as powerful. But definitely the melody, it's in this case, it's all over the melody. Let's move on to Zohrenu, page 48. On page 48, we have the beginning of the tefillah, the Amidah, the standing prayer. And again, I could sing Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu le'olam imotenu. You'd say, wait, that's not right. That's not the right nusach. That's weekday. You can't sing that on Rosh Hashanah. Or if I went Baruch atah Adonai, that would sound, it's more major. But again, it doesn't feel right. It's not right. It's not the right formulation. So the way we sing this, it's a little more majestic. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu le'olam imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak, and so on. We get to the middle. Nice text painting there. What does that mean? Right? Exalted God, dynamic of power, inspiring awe, God sublime, or El Elyon, God on high. El Elyon. So it goes up in melody until we get to there. All right. And then it goes, Leman, the end of that paragraph, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, which leads us into Zohrenu. This is only for the 10 days of awe. This is what we say during the Yamim Noraim, from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. We don't say it any other time. We do that and say it on Shabbat Shuvah, which is in that Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And this is always interesting because we use the Shabbat Nusach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. But we have to kind of find our way into this. And then come back to the Shabbat. So it's a lot easier when it's in the High Holy Day mode, if you will, because that's what we're used to. So we're going to stick with the High Holy Day. Let's listen to we were in the major. Now in the Zohrenu, let's listen to this. Zohrenu, if you know what it's saying. Zohrenu lechai. לחפץ בחיים, לכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים החיים. So we started in the major, now we're going to the minor. מלך עוזר, מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, ברוך מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. What are those three notes? What are those three notes? That's also a triad. But we have gone from a major triad to a minor triad. It's really fascinating. All we're doing is changing the middle note. So if you listen, so this is Ha'el, Bezrat, minor. But the other one is bam, 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 hallelujah. The first one at the top and the bottom are the same. It's just that one in the middle that changes the whole feel from the third. It's major or minor. It's pretty cool. Just one little note can change the whole feel of a piece. Okay? So that is Zochreinu. Remember us for life, sovereign God who treasures life, inscribe us in the book of life for your sake, God of life. Zochreinu. Okay? Yisker. So that's in the minor. Again, this feeling of awe, mystery. Let's move on to Shema Kolenu, page 98. There's a wonderful tune, wonderful melody by Max Helfman that we sang on Yom Kippur Eve. And it goes like this. And again, you can tell me just a little bit of it. Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chuz Verachem Aleinu Aleinu, V'kamel Berachamim Berachamim Uveratzon Et Tefilatenu. You can almost put that in the other, this reflection or asking for forgiveness, but it certainly is awe. It's a beautiful setting. It's in the minor, but it doesn't have a lot of focus on it. Yum, bum, bum. It kind of goes from the 1 to the 4, back to the 1, the da, da, da. So that's more, it almost could fit in the third section we'll talk about in a moment. Shema Kolenu, hear our voice. It doesn't say hear our voices. Shema Kolotenu, it says Shema Kolenu, hear our collective voice, as if it's one voice, which is also, I love all the imagery that comes up in the holidays. Hear our voice, eternal our God, show us compassion, accept our prayer with love and goodwill. Okay? Chatzi Kaddish, page 176. There are other Chatzi Kaddish, but we're going to look at that one because we're kind of going forward in the book. So this is one that occurs in Shacharit. Okay, if we had done it the night before, we'd have that major Yitkadash, but here we are in the morning. We don't have a Musaf service. This is the additional service. That would make our services, instead of 3 hours, it would be about 5 hours. So we should be thankful that we just have a 3-hour service and we don't have Musaf. Okay. But we use the tune that we would use in Musaf, we use it here in Shachar. So listen to this one and tell me how this is. This is a very different Kaddish. Yitkadash. You remember this one? Yitkadash. Shemei Rabba. Amen. Ve'alma divrach chiruteh. Ve'amlit malchuteh. And you know the rest of it, right? Ve'imru amen, ve'imru amen. Yitkadash, what's that making you feel? Yitkadash, a little trepidation. Shemeh Rama. Right? I mean, it's kind of scary. So, and then we lead into the Baruch. Baruch. We go back to the major, triumphant, Majesty. Okay? Let's move on. Keep going. Unnetana Tokeh, page 208. We have a couple of different tunes that we use for this. We have the one with the choir, which we love on the first day. I'll do the second day one for now. Here we go. So this again, lots. This is the part that would be similar to a prayer like Holy Dre that people really know. But this one really is, these words are much more weighty than Holy Dre, which was its legal formula. So in the middle of the page, mystery. Let us proclaim the power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe. Seems to fit the words a little better. And inspires highest praise for your dominion, for your throne is a throne of love. Your reign is a reign of truth. Fits very well. Okay, moving on. Rosh Hashanah. Okay, page 212. Probably recognize this one as well, right? Rosh Hashanah. Ikatenu Yom Tzom Kippur Yechatemu. Then we have the verses. On Rosh Hashanah, this is written on the fast of Yom Kippur. This is sealed. How many will pass away from this world? How many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? And so on. It really fits the words. Okay? And then we end just as we started on the next page. Through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. That's a very famous tune by Lewandowski. Who also wrote the Hallelujah. 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 You might have heard that one. So he wrote this as well. Okay. The Rosh Hashanah. Shema Yisrael. Let's go to 256, please. Come. Journey through the Sidur with the Machzor with me to 256. Now we're in the Torah service. Okay? When usually you think of Shema Yisrael, what tune do you usually associate with? Shema Yisrael. Adonai Eloheinu. This is a tune by Zolzer. And if you listen very carefully, Shema Yisrael, Adonai, it's in 3/4, Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Where was he from? He was from Vienna. It's a Viennese waltz. It's a waltz, right? We usually make it, we kind of like extend it out and do it very, free. And Shema Yisrael. But originally, it was in 3/4, and it was a waltz. Okay? This one, though, in the Torah service, on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Yomim Noraim, the days of awe. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohim, Adonai Echad. What key is that? Minor. That's in the minor, right? So that's what we use when we take the Torah out. Shema Yisrael is that minor majesty or mystery and awe. Okay? Moving on to the theme of forgiveness and reflection. We're still in the silver book. This is a very big silver Yom Kippur book. Lots of things in here. We're gonna go back actually for a moment to page 114. We didn't really talk about Avinu Malkeinu yet, but there are 3 different tunes that are beautiful that we sing for Avinu Malkeinu throughout the holidays. So the first one on Rosh Hashanah by Max Janowski, made famous by Barbara Streisand. Right? She's the one who really put it on the map. This goes, so on page 114, still trying to get there. There we go. So we're not going to look at the bottom of that page. We're going to actually look at the top of 114. This is the setting that Max Janowski, for the most part, Mishkan Nefesh changed it a little bit throughout a little bit, but it's pretty much most of it. So it goes, Avinu Malkeinu Shema Koleinu Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lefaneinu Avinu Malkeinu Chol Aleinu Ve'alol Aleinu V'tapenu. What's the interval that's really being employed here for those who are musicians or who may know? Avinu Malkeinu. If you start on the first, let's say that's the first, start on the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 1, 2, 1, comes back to the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So when you have that sound, it's not that same kind of dread. Hallelujah. But this is really that kind of plaintive, the pleading sound, which we use, which is interesting. We sing it on Rosh Hashanah, but all these themes kind of mixed together. They're all important throughout the holidays, but we do. Avinu Malkeinu 1, 4, 1, 1, 4, 3, 3. Sometimes we use da 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 da. 1, 4, 3. It kind of has that voice sound to it. Yeah, da, da. So that is what's really, and that motif is used throughout that whole Avinu Malkeinu. Because it goes Avinu Malkeinu da 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 da, Avinu Malkeinu da 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 da, and then later it goes higher. Avinu Malkeinu, so it goes Avinu Malkeinu da 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 da, Avinu Malkeinu Chadesh Aleinu, Chadesh Aleinu, make for us Shana Tova New Year, ba 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 ba. You can hear that it's throughout the whole piece. This kind of plaintive going on. So it's a beautiful rendition. Okay, there's the one that we all know, the folk tune at the bottom of page 115. Avinu Malkeinu Chodenu Vanenu, right? Avinu Malkeinu Chodenu Vanenu Yemanu. This is actually in a very different mode that we don't see in the high holidays a lot. This is in what we call a Hava Nagila mode or the fiddler on the roof mode. Or Hava Nagila has that kind of, right? Avinu Malkeinu. So that's yeah, I mean, there's no, it brings out, it's like we sing that you hear the whole congregation singing it together. It's being played on the organ, the piano, whatever. Everyone's singing it in unison. It's very, very powerful. Okay, even the text, Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu means what? Our Father. Could be a little more egalitarian, our parent, okay? No, people, that's why we oftentimes don't translate, because to say, and then what is Malkeinu? Our king, you say our sovereign, our parent, our sovereign, our father, our king, people have kind of remembered that language. You say our parent, our ruler. It doesn't quite make it. So sometimes it's better just not to translate it. Avinu Malkeinu something. We just use it, then it conjures it up just from the Hebrew word. So Avinu Malkeinu. Okay, answer us with grace for our needs are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love. Let's move ahead to page 428. Here's a setting that we like to do on the afternoon service. 428. Okay, and we're talking about forgiveness, reflection. All right. So we have at the end, 429, the regular Avinu Malkeinu. There's a wonderful tune by Zulzer, the guy who wrote Shema Yisrael. He wrote lots of other things, and this is a nice one that he wrote. This is an Avinu Malkeinu, and it has a little bit of that feeling of this forgiveness in it. So it goes like this, top of page 428. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Look at the English. Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you. I mean, that's what it sounds like. And then they did a nice thing in this Siddur. Instead of our parent, our ruler, look what they did. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful. So first of all, it shows like this Avinu, it's almighty, God who is king, kind of switched a little bit, and merciful, God who's compassionate. But what do they do here? They use the alliteration. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful. You see, they use the same sound at the beginning of each of those words. Okay, then it goes into Avinu Malkeinu Elanu Melech Elata. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign. The next one, Avinu Malkeinu Aseiman leman shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name. It's a gem that we want to include, just to bring out this masterful piece that brings out the word so elegantly. Okay, Ashamnu, page 296. Go back for a moment, and I'm going to race forward again. We have this throughout all of Yom Kippur. What can you tell me about Ashamnu at the bottom of the page? Ashamnu, Bagadnu. What about these words? Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu, Dofi. What do you notice about the beginning of each of these words? What's that? It's in plural, right? So it's not I have sinned, but it's a collective. We have sinned. Ashamnu, Bagadnu, and in Hebrew, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. A rhyming pattern, because we have done this, we have done this, we have done this. That comes at the end of it. Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu, Dofi. So we have that ending that's we, the collective. What about the beginning of each word? What did you say? It's an acrostic. Okay, and we could do a whole lesson on acrostics and throughout the liturgy. Sometime we'll do that, but it's an acrostic. It's like we say from A to Z, right? The whole alphabet. Things that we've done wrong. Here it's from Aleph to Taf. There's even 3 Tafs at the end, but it's from Aleph to Taf. No letters are missing. All the letters are in there correctly. All right, and so we have sinned, we have done all these things from out to top, from A to Z, and we're going to iterate what they are. Okay, and we sometimes beat our chest. So Asham, right over our heart. Asham nu aganu kazam nu dibarnu dofi. So wait a minute. What were we saying? Yeah. So what key is this in? Asham nu aganu da 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 ba da 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 da. Is it minor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 3, 1. What is it?
Say it again, Bob. He said it's in the key of triad.
It's in the key of triad, right? It's a triad. What kind of triad was that? Is that a major triad or a minor triad? It's major, yeah. But you're thinking, Ashanu, it's sad, it's got to be a minor, right? Here's an example. The tune predates, this is hundreds of years old. This predates when, romantic music and music, Schubert, Schumann, they would write pieces in major, denote something happy, write something in minor, denote something sad. This is an example of such an old piece that it's in major, but it's sound, or it's, if we did it lively, that would really be a shaman. If we went, then you'd hear the happiness. So it's very important the way we do it, but it has it's stepwise. You can tell it's an old tune as well by the stepwise motion. 5, 4, 3, 5, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. It's not jumping on the ground, and so it's a very old tune, but it's in the major. It's actually in the major. But it sounds sad because again, it's our experience with it. But it's a tune, and that's why it's very important, even though it's in the major, to do it in a very not pop, but in a way that that brings out. I mean, it's solemn. Let's say that it's solemn. But it's actually in the major. But we do it. So I wanted you just to recognize when we do it, this is a tune that's in the major, that it still is something very similar. Okay. Yes, very reflective. Right. Asham. Okay, a few more. The Al-Kulam 302. All right, the gates are closing. The hour's getting late. We'll finish this off soon. 302. Okay, this is the longer confession. We had the Asham is the short, right? And this is the longer one. All these things we've done, the ways we've wronged you by this, the ways we've wronged you by this, and then at the end we say the Al-Kulam for all these failures of judgment and will of God, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Okay, again, this feeling of reflection, forgiveness, we associate that with forgiveness, right? Another tune that you're very familiar with. Sim Shalom, page 406. Okay, we're going to see again. This is another piece by, I think, Max Janowski. And there we go. Instead of like Avinu Malkeinu, has the same beginning. Why am I not getting to here? Okay, Sim Shalom. What did I say? 406? Yes. There we go. Okay, 406. Sim Shalom. That's the beginning. It's Avinu Malkeinu. Sim Shalom. Sim Shalom. Tova U'Berachim. Ein V'Chesed V'Rachamim. Aleinu Ve'Ado Yisrael Amecha. Sim Shalom. Sim So there it is again. It kind of just repeats over and over. All right. I didn't put this in here, but we're going to go to it for a second. Let's find an Elah. Well, I think we're getting there. So 412. Let's go to 412. And one more thing to show you. So here, this is again Slichot Vidui in the afternoon service. This is forgiveness and confession. Kerachema v'albani recham Adonai al yereah ki chigva shamayim haaretz kavan chasdo al yereah as parents show tenderness to their children. May you show mercy to those who worship you, like the heavens, the tower above the earth. Your love is powerful for those who revere you. Another beautiful tune that we have. We'll use that tomorrow night during Slichot as we change our mantles, and also during the Slichot service. Okay? Page, I'm going to go to, let's see, 556. A couple more here, and I think we're just about done. 556. So here we're in Yisker. And we actually use this Esa Enai at the beginning of the Rosh Hashanah service, too. It's one of the first pieces that we sing, 556. Esa Enai Eharim Me'ayin Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Me'im Adonai Yoseh Shamayim Va'aretz. This is, you would recognize as Psalm 121. I lift my eyes to the mountain. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from the eternal maker of heaven and earth. Very appropriate, you know, it's in the mind. We used to sing Esa Enai. Esa Enai Eharim. Do you remember that at the beginning of Rosh Hashanah? Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? It's a very majestic tune, but it doesn't seem to fit the words in the same way. It seems like it should be more plaintive or introspective. So we changed that tune a number of years ago to reflect that. All right? And then as we get to 640, we're going to pause for a moment as we're getting into Ne'ilah. The gates are closing. Okay? So right before 640, let's go to 620. You get an extra, it's a freebie. Okay, so 620. What do we see on 620? What is that? The Chatzi Kaddish. We're about to start Ne'ilah service, and we have Chatzi Kaddish. So we're not going to do Yitkadah, Shemei Rabbah, that was the Majestic, or Yitkadah, Shem, you know, Yitkadah, Shemei Rabbah, that's the minor. We're going to use something a little more reflective or penitent, what's the word I'm looking for? Penitent. Plaintive. Thank you. There you go. So this is more plaintive. So this is the Ne'ilah Chatzi Kaddish. The gates are starting to close. Yitkadah, Shemei Rabbah, ay, Be'amad Iberachirutei. Remember this? V'yamli Malchutei V'chayecho V'chayecho Beit Yisrael. You can hear that oy there, right there, right? So this is as the gates are starting to close. At the end of the service, we have this very plaintive moment. And finally, Petach Lanu Sha'ar, page 640. Open for us the gates. The gates are closing. Keep them open just a little longer. Okay? Petach, here we go. Petach Lanu Sha'ar, Bet Neilat Sha'ar, Kifanayo. Open a gate for us when the gates are being closed, for the day is about to fade. So that's kind of, I could leave you on this reflective moment. And I'll just point out, the last thing I want to just point out to you is that we end our service with a Kaddish Shalem. It's the only time in the service that we do Kaddish Shalem. It's a full Kaddish. That's the one we do that. Then you know we're getting to the end of the service. Because we have that, and we have then the Shema Yisrael. We sing Shema Yisrael once. We sing Baruch Shem Kavod 3 times, and Adonai Huha Elohim 7 times. But that Kaddish is the one time in the Reform movement that we have Kaddish Shalem. So that's it. Thank you very much. I just wanted to